welcome back. So we are going to be making safari themed treats. We have all our treats laid out in front of us, and this is the second order that I had to work on when I was working on the teddy bear order. So I decided to just split it up into two separate videos just for the sake of time, so it wouldn't be super long. But now we are going to get into this safari theme, and I believe it's for a baby shower as well. So I'm excited. So let's just get right into it. But first, I need some caffeine because I'm running low on energy. Alright guys, let's get started.
So I am going to start off by making my cake pops using chocolate cake pop dough. And to make sure that my cake pops are all the same size, I am using this cake pop mold. And everything that I am using in this video will be linked down below in the description box. And look how cute these little cake pop balls are. They are the perfect little circle. So I am going to repeat this process 6 times. I am making half a dozen cake pops. And now that all our cake pops are made, now we do have all our treats set out and ready to be dipped. So I am going to start working on my strawberries. That's the first thing that I like to go ahead and start dipping, just because I feel like they're like exposed. But I am just going to place some on my flour foam, and I had the bright idea, I don't know why, that if I put my soda can on the flour foam, it was going to be enough weight to hold the foam from tilting over, because these strawberries are so big. There are too much weight for these flour foams. And it didn't work, and I spilled my soda all over the place. So I gave it another try, and I went ahead and used my flat flour foam, and it worked a lot better. But always guys, just put something heavy in the middle of your flour foam. And to decorate some of our strawberries, we are going to use this sanding sugar from Walmart. It's the Great Valley brand. And I am just going to start dipping my strawberries. I am going to do 3 white and 3 stage green. Using Color Mill Stage Green, I am gonna dip these strawberries in this beautiful stage green color. Now for the stage green strawberries, I am gonna add some little safari animals to them. So I am just gonna dip them in chocolate and let them dry. Now for the cake pops and Rice Krispie treats, I am going to use these paper straws that I bought off of Amazon. They make your treats pop so much. They're super cute. I love using paper straws. You can find so many varieties on Amazon. However, they do have a downfall. So these gold paper straws have a foil that they use to give us the gold look. And that causes our cake pop dough to slide off the paper straw. So you will see here shortly that I did struggle with that a bit, but we'll get back to that here in a minute. For now, I am going to be using these paper straws for my Rice Krispie treats. Just adding a little bit of chocolate to make sure that it sticks to the paper straw, and inserting the paper straw more than halfway into the Rice Krispie treat. So while we wait for our Rice Krispie treats and cake pops to dry and to stick well to our paper straws, I am going to start to dip my donuts into the stage green and white chocolate. So I am going to do 3 stage green and 3 white. And just keep in mind that dipping these donuts is a little tricky because they already have the donut glaze and they are slimy and hard to hold on to. Now here I decided to add some sprinkles to my white chocolate donuts just to see how it would look, but I did not like the look, so I just went ahead and made another one. I am constantly playing around with treats, seeing what works and what doesn't, so don't be scared to mess around and see what look you like and what you don't like. And here they are. I'm gonna set them aside so that they can dry. So now back to the cake pops. So here you can see that the first cake pop I dipped went well. The cake pop did not slide off the paper straw and everything was good to go. Now for the second cake pop was when things got really complicated. So I dipped it in the chocolate and here you can see, well, I don't know if you guys can tell that well, but the cake pop started to slide off the paper straw. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna give it some more time to harden and I am gonna move on to dipping my pretzels. But that did not work because after I had finished dipping my pretzels, the cake pop still had not dried to the paper straw. And the reason that this happens is because the foil on the paper straw is very slippery, and if your house is too warm, my house was like 70 that day, it will not allow the chocolate to harden so that it can stick well to the paper straw. So eventually I gave in and just decided to pop the Rice Krispie treats and the cake pops into the fridge so that they can harden, because that is the only way that it's gonna work out for me. So I'm saying this all to let you guys know that when you're working with paper straws, especially the ones that have like the foil on them, just go ahead and pop them in the fridge if your house is above 60 degrees. Now, if your house is cool, maybe it's cold outside, then you're good to go. But if it's above 60 degrees, just go ahead and pop it in the freezer or the fridge for a couple minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, and then go back and dip your treats. That'll save you a lot of headache with dealing with cake pops falling off of your stick. And while I was still waiting for my cake pops, I decided to go ahead and work on my Oreos, and this is very simple. You guys saw how I did it. Pop it in the freezer for 5 minutes and it should be good to go. Now I'm just gonna dip 3 of my pretzels into the stage green chocolate, and I'm just adding some more stage green food coloring because I was running low on chocolate, so I had added more white chocolate. So I am just preparing my chocolate to dip my cake pops because at this moment I still had not decided to pop them in the fridge because I was being stubborn and thought I could just keep going. And here you can see that the third cake pop eventually just fell into the chocolate, and that was my the point where I'm like, all right, we're not getting anywhere with this. So I just grabbed them all and stuck them in the fridge left them in there for a good 10 minutes, and went back to working on my Oreos. And look how pretty these Oreos are. I love to make chocolate covered Oreos. They're super easy to make. The only downfall is that they do use up a lot of chocolate. So now I am going to start working on my apples, just dipping them into my caramel and setting them aside so that the caramel can harden a little bit. And don't forget to stir your caramel in between dips. Now you can put your caramel apples into the fridge so that the caramel can harden before you dip them into the chocolate. Or you can set them aside for a couple minutes and let them just come down to room temperature and harden on their own. It just depends on how tight you are with time. Obviously, putting them in the fridge to harden is a lot quicker, but there is a downfall because you will then have to wait for the cold apples to come back to room temperature so that you can dip them into chocolate. If not, your apples are going to crack. So just keep that in mind. So I just went ahead and sat them aside so that they can harden on their own. And while that was happening, I went back to starting to dip my cake pops, and here you can see that everything was going smoothly, just how I like it. The chocolate had hardened completely with the paper straws, and I had no issues moving along onto the Rice Krispie treats. And I like to share my moments of frustration with you guys in hopes that maybe it can save you some frustration, time, and of course your product. My hope is that by sharing these frustrations with you guys, I can avoid you a lot of time, frustration, and waste of product, and also teach you guys a quicker and more effective way for working on your treats. So I hope that these little tips and tricks are helping you guys. Now for the white cake pops, I went ahead and covered them in the sanding sugar that I got from Walmart, the white one, just like we did the strawberries. And to save time, I like to dip all my treats according to their color. So for example, I am dipping my white treats all back to back in this white chocolate. And then when it's time for me to dip my stage green treats, I will dip them all back to back. And the reason I do this is because if you set the chocolate aside and then try to come back to it, it's going to harden and you're going to have to constantly be heating it up, waiting for it to cool down to the perfect dipping temperature. And it's just very time consuming. So for the sake of time and saving my time, I just like to go ahead and dip all my treats in that color that I am using and then move on to the next color. And I also like to clean as I go. That way, by the time I am done covering all my treats in chocolate and decorating them, I don't have too much to clean because by that time you're exhausted. I know these videos are only like 30-minute videos, but they're actually hours of footage, 3 hours or more. So they are very time consuming to make, and the last thing you want to do is clean up your kitchen. So definitely recommend cleaning up as you go. And now that all our apples are covered in chocolate, we are going to move on to our little fondant pieces. Now these fondant pieces I made in advance using this mold, and this mold. And of course, everything is going to be down in the description box. And I am going to paint them with this lemon extract. My camera does not want to focus, but it's just lemon extract and this gold luster dust. That will also be linked in the description box. And I am just going to paint them one by one. These fondant pieces, I said I made in advance because you do want to let them harden. You want to use your CMC powder and let the fondant harden, maybe for a day or two before you start to use them on your treats. That way they don't get squished or they don't change, they don't lose their shape. Like, I guess is what I'm trying to say. If they're already hardened, they won't lose their shape. Now, if you freshly make them, they are going to be soft and it takes a little bit to harden. And if you squish them by an accident or who knows, anything happens, they will definitely lose their shape and you will have to just remake it. So just to save time, I recommend that you make all your fondant pieces in advance, set them aside to dry so that when it's time to be used, they are nice and hard. And if you don't have lemon extract to paint your fondant pieces, you can also use vodka. It works perfectly, and your treats do not taste like vodka or lemon extract. That will evaporate. And now I am going to do what I told you guys not to do, which is make fresh fondant pieces. I realized that the look that I wanted to achieve on my treats, I did not have enough fondant pieces to do that. So I am just going to make a couple fondant pieces, not too many. And since it's not that many, I'm not too worried about it, but I highly recommend you to make your pieces in advance. And another tip that I want to share with you guys is when it's time for your fondant pieces to dry, definitely set them down to dry the shape that you want them to dry to. So for example, I wanted this frame to have like a round circle shape. So that is why I am using the cookie cutter to mold that little round shape in the middle. And now I am moving on to coloring my fondant and using Forest by Color Mill. And I am just going to work in my food coloring until I achieve the perfect foresty color. And once we have all our fondant pieces ready to go, I am going to use this embosser that says Baby Boy. And I am going to stamp those wordings onto my fondant. And using a cookie cutter, I am going to cut out the wording. And here you could clearly see that I was having some difficulty removing the fondant from my countertop. So here is another tip. I highly recommend that you use parchment paper. And here you can see that it was very easy to remove. So definitely don't use anything else. Put parchment paper when you are working with fondant because fondant is very sticky and it will definitely stick to your countertops. And now that we are officially done making our fondant pieces, we're going to put that away and move on to sprinkles. Using these gold sprinkles from Hobby Lobby, I am just going to add my lemon extract and luster dust to color them. I just want to give them like an extra metallic-y, goldy look. It's already gold, but I just want it to look metallic gold and just give it that extra little pop. So I am just using those products to color my sprinkles, and then I'm going to place them on this tray so that they can dry. Go ahead and spread them out so that they don't dry all stuck together. And while they are drying, I am going to move on to painting my fondant pieces that I had freshly made, which are these frames. And using a felt tip paintbrush, I am going to trace over the wording on my fondant pieces, the baby boy part, just so that the wording can pop a little more. And once that is done, I am going to move on to my pretzels, and I am just going to draw some lines using my luster dust onto the pretzel. And right now it looks pretty weird, but I promise you that at the end it'll come together nicely. I am going to do the same to the stage green pretzels. And this is what they are looking like. They look pretty weird right now, but the final product will look really cute, I promise. And finally, the time has come for my favorite part of making treats, which is decorating them. So here I'm just placing some fondant pieces over them to see how I want to decorate it. And now I am just going to add some drizzle to my Rice Krispie treats and little fondant pieces of safari animals. And I am not going to show you them until they are all done because the fondant pieces are a little heavy, and since they have not completely dried, if I try to show you them, they're going to slide off. But once they are completely dry, I will for sure show you guys. And here's when I realized that while I was decorating the pretzels, I forgot to add the leaf. So I had to remove the little fondant pieces and go back and add the leaf onto every pretzel. And if this ever happens to you, just remove the fondant piece very gently, that way it does not break on you. I also added the bamboo leaf onto every single cake pop. And for the apples, I decided to keep it very simple. I just drizzled some chocolate, placed some bamboo leaves, and sprinkled some gold sprinkles onto the side. And that is it. I have learned throughout the years that less is more. So I have been sticking to not overly decorating my treats. And for the white apples, I am just going to add on the fondant pieces that say baby boy. And here you can see how this fondant piece was trying to slide off. So yeah, just be careful with that. And now I'm going to move on to my Rice Krispie treats. I'm going to add on the little frame and then some little animal footprints in the center. And last but not least, we are going to decorate our white donuts. And I am just going to drizzle on some white chocolate. And I am going to add on some little fondant pieces just to give it a little pop. I ran out of painted fondant pieces, so I went back to my little stash and added these fondant pieces. And I'm going to go back and paint them gold here in a second. And we are 95% done. So here I am just giving the kitchen a little wipe down, emptying out my piping bag, and putting away my chocolate. Here is the sprinkles. They are completely dry. So I am just going to put them back into their little bottle. And look how much better they look. They definitely pop a lot more, in my opinion. And now we are going to paint the last two little fondant pieces that were left to do onto our donuts, and we are completely done decorating our treats. And I decided to add some luster dust and lemon extract into this travel size spray bottle that I got from Walmart and give my donuts, Oreos, and apples a good little spritz. Just like that. Just to give it an extra touch of gold. And last but not least, I'm going to add my paper straws to my apples and the bows to the Rice Krispie treats and the apples, just to give it that extra cute look and to complete the look. Adding these bows definitely pull the look together and make your treat stand out on the dessert table. And for the moment we have all been waiting for. And that's a wrap for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and may God's peace be with you all.